Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and this is Cody, and he is joining me today to rant a little bit about Warner Brothers and the 4 things that Warner Brothers needs to do to fix the DCEU. So Cody, before we dive into that, tell us a little bit about who you are and your channel.
My name's Cody Leach. I do similar things to what Durbin does. Do movie reviews, TV reviews, music, video game reviews, trailer reactions, little editorial news videos, all kinds of fun stuff. So go on over to youtube.com/Cody Leach channel, or you can just search my name. I should be the first person that pops up, and we'll have some fun.
Nice. Now, I took a little vacation here and went to New Zealand for about 2.5 weeks. Great Durban experiences that will be up by Friday, and I'm really excited to put that video together and have that ready by then. So that's going to be really awesome. Due to this rainstorm in California that literally has the name Lucifer, not really going to be able to see too many videos this weekend, but I will catch up on those other reviews that I have to do. So I thought this is the perfect window of opportunity to talk about this asinine news that has constantly been coming out about Warner Brothers, the Batman, and all these properties. And I'm just really looking forward to diving into this. So Cody, I gotta double check with you because being out of the country, most of my news came from the headlines on my phone that popped up from Sean Chandler's videos and your videos. So let me just run this by you and just make sure that I have this correct and that I'm not dreaming.
All right, I'm ready.
So first, we have Ben Affleck will direct the Batman, and that's in stone. Then we have Ben Affleck will not, well, it's not in stone. I need a good script, but more than likely I'm going to do it. Then we went to that headline, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then from that headline, we went back to, I'm going to do it. Then from that headline, we went to, I will not direct it.
Yes, and there was a Jimmy Kimmel experience somewhere in there where he went on live national television and said, for sure, rest assured, I am directing this movie.
Okay, so we had that rest assuredness, and now we can't rest because that's not happening.
Yes.
Then the next headline was, Matt Reeves is going to direct this.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next headline after that was, negotiations have broken down.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing after that is, he still might do it, they're just waiting for heads to cool down, which that's never good when you hear that in any article.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now we see Matt Reeves is not directing the Batman. Am I correct?
Yes, that is a pretty good summary, and believe it or not, there's actually a few things that happened in between that.
Let me do one more, and then let you fill me in on that. My last thing that I had that I saw in the headlines is now we are seriously considering Mel Gibson, who called Batman vs. Superman a piece of crap, insert expletive there, and they have asked him to to direct
Get rid of
Suicide Squad 2.
Yeah.
All right, so fill me in on what I'm missing there. Like, what's the other gaps that I missed being out of the country?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, from all the slew of news that we've gotten that just absolutely wrapping my brain, that the first things that were coming out was regarding The Flash. They had another director leave, so the third director finally leave The Flash. And then they were saying, okay, we're going to find a new director. And then I don't even think it was a week later, and they said, you know what, we're tearing up the script that we've had for The Flash for the past couple of years. We are starting from scratch, and then we're going to find the new director. Then all the drama with Ben Affleck happened, and then he said, okay, I'm not going to direct the movie, but I am going to be starring in it, I am writing it, I am producing it, so things are still going to be good. I just kind of want to manage my expectations with how much I'm going to be able to do after Live by Night. You had some people believe that, you had some people who didn't. I fell somewhere in the middle. And then you had this little thing coming out where suddenly Chris Terrio is turning in a draft of the Batman script, punching up Ben Affleck's script. And then we have this news outlet come out and say that, no, actually they're going to rip up the script and start from absolute scratch from the Batman as well. And then less than 24 hours later they came out and said, no, everybody loves the Batman script, including Ben Affleck. And then, you know, then the Matt Reeves stuff started, and yeah, pretty much after that, you covered everything else. So there's an insane amount of ridiculousness.
And what's so insane about it is it feels like all these headlines are coming from legitimate sources. Like, these aren't tabloids, these aren't things just trying to churn out drama as clickbait. These are real sources that all this contradictory information is coming out. So, like, honestly, that tells me something is very wrong with Warner Brothers' plan to put out these DCEU movies, on top of they're promising Shazam, they're promising a Black Adam movie. They're like, they keep throwing all that, we're gonna do this, and it's gonna be so great. It's like, really? Because you can't even control your press circuit for this. And how many directors have you been through The Flash? How many scripts have you torn up for The Flash? How many directors have you now been through? What is going on over there? So, like, yeah, the breakdown has got to be somewhere in that studio, right?
Yeah, there's an old saying, where there is smoke, there is fire. And there's a fire somewhere at Warner Brothers. I don't even, it's been absolutely ridiculous. I have never seen, and I followed movie news way before I did YouTube, I have never once seen even a single movie have not only this much drama, but this much press surrounding it. It's like every single day we hear every little detail that has come out. And like you just said, it's all from reputable sources. It's from Hollywood Reporter. It's from Variety. It's not from, comicbooknews.net or something like that. It's reputable news sources. Literally the only piece of news that has been circulating over the past couple of months, especially the past couple of weeks, that hasn't been verified yet by like a reputable source, is when John Campea said that he had heard from sources surrounding WB that not only is Ben Affleck not directing Batman, but he wants out of DC altogether. And
yeah, and I read those rumors too. Those few places I got internet in New Zealand, and like I kind of agree with you. I saw that those weren't the most reputable sources, but there was this negative part inside of me that went, I bet that's true, though.
I bet it is true. And what's funny is, and I've said this before in a couple of my videos, I have never been one to buy into clickbait news when you can just read it and tell that they've taken it out of context or they've chopped up the quote to kind of make it like, Ben Affleck might have been talking about the script, but then they'll highlight Ben Affleck hates the script or something like that to get everybody to read it. But literally, like from beginning, even before Batman v Superman, every single piece of clickbait news that has ever come out regarding the DCEU has been proven true eventually. I cannot think of one rumor that has not come true eventually. The rumors with the rewrites and the reshoots and the recutting of Suicide Squad, the rumors about Doomsday, the rumors about Lex Luthor's weird version in BVS, like everything that I have ever read about the DCEU has been proven true eventually. So I always, now whenever it's regarding the DCEU, I don't look at it as clickbait. I look at it as, this is probably going to be proven true here in the next couple of months.
This is real. This is happening.
Yes.
So come up here with 4 ways that Warner Brothers can fix DCEU. 4 ways that they can right this ship and turn it around. So, are you ready to dive into these 4 things that I've thought of, Cody?
Yes, and number 1, obviously, is that DC needs to prevent you from leaving the country ever again, because as soon as you left, everything went to hell.
I know! And I couldn't believe it! And I was so glad to be in New Zealand, but I'm watching this, I'm like, I wish I was in my studio able to make videos right now because this is so unreal. So I'm happy to finally be back in my studio to try to make up for all this stuff. It's insane. All right. So way number 1 that I think Warner Brothers needs to, what they need to take, these steps they need to take immediately is to slow everything down. And here's what I'm betting with this first step. And tell me if you think I'm wrong. To slow everything down, they just need to take every single DCEU script they've written past Justice League and shred it and start everything over and just slow down this thing and build up these characters in their own individual movies so we get attached to them. What do you think about that?
Yes, I don't know if they have any scripts currently either being written or are written that are kind of going along with this new path that they're trying to get everybody to believe that they're on. So if there are some of those scripts, they might be able to salvage those. But yes, they need to just halt everything. Stop announcing 25 movies and just focus on the 3 that you promised us 4 years ago, or however many years ago they put that little slate out. We're doing BVS, then Suicide Squad, and then Wonder Woman, and then Aquaman, and then Cyborg. That list is all but dead right now. And like I said on one of my videos, they just need to get back to focusing on the things they've already promised and stop adding promises to this gigantic mountain of promises. You know what I mean? Like they can't even get the easy properties done like The Flash and Aquaman, and yet they're trying to do Shazam and Black Adam and Gotham City Sirens and God knows what else is going to be announced in the next couple of days. So just exactly like you said, stop, regroup, let the fire smolder, and then go. New scripts, get your directors, all that kind of stuff, and start where you decided you were going to go way back when, but do it in a way where the movies you have now aren't going to be irrelevant, but also make sure you steer it in a direction that's going to be better for your universe.
You have done the perfect segue into my number 2 thing that I think Warner Brothers needs to do to fix the DCEU, which is map it out. So the first part of that mapping it out is they need to slow it down, but they really need to kind of do what Marvel's doing and break this up into phases and figure out where they want each of these phases to head to. And I can get that Warner Brothers doesn't want to exactly follow the Marvel, thing, because you want to break out and do your own original thing. You don't want to be a copycat. I get it. But the Marvel thing works the way it works because each individual movie sets up a character, or it furthers that character's story. It does something to bring you into that character and endear you to that character while having a few fun things that move things forward and point it further ahead. So I think that's my number 2 thing that Warner Brothers has to do to fix this. They really desperately need to sit down and map this out. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, exactly. Especially since they're trying to tie every single movie together in every movie. Like, if you think about, and not to keep comparing it to Marvel, but the way that Marvel did it, at least at first, is that, aside from the post-credit stingers, their first 5 or 6 movies really didn't have any connective tissue whatsoever. They were all individual stories that would eventually come together. And the way that DC's trying to do it is they're trying to mash it all together into a gigantic ball and then explain in those movies why everything ties together. And you could probably do that, but they need to slow it down. And the one thing that they definitely need to do is, once they sit down and they let the fire smolder and they decide, okay, this is what we need to do, they need to come up with an end game. Like you were saying with Marvel, like they have phases, is they need to have like some kind of an idea in mind for like a season finale, like the Avengers movies usually are for Marvel. And it doesn't have to be Justice League, but it needs to have some kind of an end game for maybe a 2-year period, maybe even a 3-year period. And they need to say, okay, this is where we want all these characters to end up. So how do we get these characters to that point? We need to map out the storylines and tell the individual stories, but have little feelers that'll eventually lead them up to this season finale. And the other thing that they need to do is once they map out all that, they get a new plan, they get a new film slate, they need to do some kind of a press conference. I don't know if it's Comic-Con, hopefully it doesn't take that long, but they need to do something along those lines where they come out and say, listen, we've changed our plans, we've changed our mapping, we've changed the films we're going to do. I know we've been announcing 35 movies over the past 2 weeks, but this is what's going to happen. In 2018, you're getting this and this. In 2019, you're getting this and this. And they need to give us some kind of a structure or some kind of an expectation to have, because right now we don't have anything. We thought we were going to be getting, Aquaman and Cyborg next year. I don't think we're going to get a DC movie at all next year. The only one that hasn't had drama come out of it yet is Aquaman by James Wan, and that doesn't mean there isn't drama, because the only thing that they've gotten done with that movie that I've seen is a picture of all of them at a table reading the script and, giving the thumbs up saying, hey guys, everything's cool. That's all that we've gotten for that. But yeah, when you're talking about map it out, they need to have an end game, not just announce everything, just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, because that seems to be their method right now.
And it really, if that's not their method, it really feels like that is their method. There is no end game, there is no timeline, there is no direction. It is what you said. Throwing it on the wall, whatever sticks, sweet. Okay, we're going to go with that, and then try to make 30 other movies that look like that. Oh, great, one of those other ones didn't work? Okay, then I guess we'll throw this at the wall and see if that sticks. And that's just what it feels like it's doing. And like Man of Steel was a hit because it focused on Superman. And I think Batman vs. Superman was a miss because it was more about how we can set up the Justice League than telling us the awesome story of Superman and Batman. And what a great way to reboot Batman. If you're going to reboot him right after Christian Bale, reboot him in a Superman movie. That's super smart. But it just wasn't, I don't think it was executed to be what it could have been. And so, yeah. My next thing that Warner Brothers, I think they need to do to fix this DCEU is be true to the characters. And we talked about this in our State of the DCEU video, but I'm going to hit on it again because I really like this point. While we are complaining it's dark, I don't think our real complaint is like Batman vs. Superman was too dark. I think our real complaint is Superman was too gloomy, because that's not true to his character. I mean, I think they were pretty true to Batman's character. I think they were pretty true to Wonder Woman's character. But when it's a Man of Steel sequel tied into a Batman movie, you want that Man of Steel to be Superman. And so I felt like that's not what they did. And then, like you and I said in that DCEU State of the Universe video, where it's just like, when they have a problem with one movie, they try to fix it in the next. So they tried to fix Suicide Squad because somebody complained about Batman vs. Superman. And I think the real problem is, don't worry about making these movies light. Don't worry about trying to throw in the comedy, and don't try to worry about making them dark or whatever. Be true to who these characters are.
Exactly. And, you know, they don't have to stick 100,000% to the comics. They can tail off here and there, but they're doing gigantic departures from what people know and love about these characters. I mean, like you said about the gloomy Superman, we have a Batman that murders everybody. And, you know, Batman's killed before. You know, you don't have to have the Christopher Nolan setup where that's his one rule. If you want to have him kill people here and there, that's fine, but then that raises questions. But yeah, they need to stick to what people love about these characters, because aside from just getting the general movie audience because they recognize the name, you have a very, very large percentage of your audience that is hardcore comic book fans or have become hardcore comic book fans since this whole superhero craze in Hollywood, and you need to give them what they came there to see. And it's one of those things where, you know, if they want to have different tones than the comics, they can, but each individual character is going to have his individual tone. You know, Batman, if you have a Batman movie, that's automatically going to be darker than a Wonder Woman movie or an Aquaman movie. Superman should have a little bit of light to him, and I think, you know, Man of Steel had a lot of that in it. You know, there's so many characters, like if they're going to do a Harley Quinn movie, obviously that's going to be darker, or Suicide Squad, obviously that's going to be darker, but it just seems like they're trying, at first it seemed like they were trying to make their entire universe grim and humorless and, you know, stuff like that.
Trying to follow the Nolan model, which the Nolan model was he was true to who Batman was. So he made Batman movies. That's the Nolan model. And so, but they tried to, I didn't mind them making Man of Steel set in the real world and how would the real world act to that character. But what their mistake was, oh, that was all dark and gritty, so Superman now must be dark and gritty. And it's like, no. Set him in the real world. That's really cool. But he's a character of light, and he's an inspiration. So make him inspiring. Yeah,
exactly. And, you know, and that's what I think a lot of people are hoping we're going to get now that they've put Jeff Johns kind of in one of the steering seats.
Do you feel like they're even listening to him? When I hear this madness, I just don't know if they're even listening to him.
It's hard to say because, you know, I'm not even really one who completely thinks that Jeff Johns is a capable mind to steer this universe, because he's a phenomenal comic writer, but that doesn't have anything to do with making movies. And, you know, he knows who these characters are, so if you're going to reference somebody, absolutely have him in there to talk to, but there's so much news coming out, we can't make heads or tails of what's going on anymore. It's hard to say if Warner Brothers is causing all these problems, or if Jeff Johns being in the new seat is causing all these problems, or if it's just a matter of egos because they're going after a lot of big names to direct their movies. Like, you're going to get more pushback from a Ben Affleck than you are the Russo brothers. You know what I mean? So it's hard to tell where exactly the problems are. It might be all of those things. You know, Jeff Johns, whenever he was put in there, it was to give comic book fans something to be happy about, because, okay, he knows the characters. He's going to make them stick to the true nature of the characters, and he's going to steer this in a direction that comic book fans are going to want. But at the same time, he doesn't know how to make movies. He's a comic book writer. So there's also going to be backlash from studios saying, okay, that's a good way to go as far as the character, but that's also going to screw up the way we're trying to make this movie. So then there's going to be battling heads. And, you know, like, everybody hated, I mean, I'm not one of them, but everybody hated the Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds. And unless I'm mistaken, Jeff Johns had a large amount of influence in that movie. So it's one of those things where I hope that they're listening to him when they need to, but at the same time, I think the studio will probably have the right to take some power away from him once in a while and be like, no, this is a movie, not a comic book. We need to go this direction. But there's so much fire right now, like we're talking about, we can't tell where the fire is coming from.
So that was actually a good segue into my number 4, which is, I think Warner Brothers needs to back off. Now, I'm going to walk a very tight line here, but I think in a perfect world, studios are there to finance a movie, they're there to invest in it and make some money back, and they're there to distribute it so that money can be made back. And the director, the actors, they're there for the creativity and the artistic side of it to make that appealing thing. And I think a studio, since they are investing money in it, they should have some say. Like, if they have the research onto what is going to sell, what is going to make this good, then I think they should have to say to the director, hey, we think this will sell if you have this in the movie, but we'll leave it up to you to creatively put it in there however you want. Because you got those directors that could get so artsy-fartsy that it makes no sense, but then you got the studio that make such a vanilla thing that it's boring, but if the two could work together in harmony, that'd be great. But in some ways, I feel like Warner Brothers here needs to back off.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they do need to have some input, and the director needs to be able to push back on that, but when you hire a director to make a movie, you need to let them make the movie. Don't hire them just to have a face behind the camera or have a name to put on your movie and then you go and do whatever you want with it like they did with David Ayer's movie. I guarantee you if we got to see the untouched cut that he made of that movie, we'll never know if it was better or worse, but I guarantee you it would be a completely different movie than what we got. And it's one of those things where, they're taking the approach where they're going after these big name experienced directors. Like they went after Ben Affleck, they went after they're talking about Mel Gibson now, Matt Reeves, they've already had Zack Snyder and David Ayer. These are big experienced directors who have had a lot of success. Their names are recognizable. When Marvel did it, it was a lot of unknown directors for the most part, or up and coming directors. So if you're gonna go after directors that have these real egos and they have experience and they have these big names and expectations attached to their films whenever their names are on there, if you're gonna go after the big names, let them make the movie. Like I was making a point whenever I did a video talking about them talking to Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson is one of those guys, he's the last guy you go after if you want to bully him around once you give him the movie. So I don't know if that's them trying to steer the ship right or whatever, but they need to, when they hire somebody, when they hire talent, they need to trust in that talent. Otherwise, why did you hire them in the first place? Like, the big thing that I want an answer for with the whole Batman v Superman thing is, where did the confusion come in with the 4-hour cut of the movie? Like, did the studio tell Zack Snyder, we want a 2-hour movie, and he did what he wanted? Did they tell him to go make your movie, and then they chopped it down to 2 hours? I mean, what happened? But there's so many problems that, that came from confusion between director and studio, and then the David Ayer Suicide Squad came from confusion between the studio and the director with them wanting a certain tone and a certain fit and a certain music background, and he was off making a David Ayer movie. And now you've got Zack Snyder returning, you've got Patty Jenkins doing Wonder Woman, and then whenever they get into these new movies, they're still going after these big names, and especially when you got Ben Affleck, who obviously is very passionate about the Batman. People give him crap because of Live by Night, but I was one of the few people that actually really liked that movie. So the guy's made, if you count that one as a miss, the guy has made 3 phenomenal hits. And you don't give a guy like that the reins to a movie and then you micromanage him. You tell him that you want this in there and I want you to do this, because you're taking a big experienced guy and you're treating him like a novice. So if they're, like you said, back off. Hire your people. Pick a director that has a vision that coincides with your vision. Give them freedom. Pull the reins back if you need to, if they're going too far out of the direction of your universe, but let them make the movie.
Exactly. Yeah. So maybe to clarify my point, it would be have clear expectations stated at the beginning between both director and studio so that they can be doing this with the same vision. And that way the director is putting their flair, their style, their personality, and their way of telling a story into a vision that fits into the big universe and carries it forward. Because, yeah, it's just, I don't know what they're going to do if they hire Mel Gibson, because that guy, I mean, he might go Incredible Hulk on them or blow up or something insane if they really try to micromanage him. I mean, if they let him direct Suicide Squad 2, and they do what they did with David Ayer and cut it a whole different way, I can't even imagine the tirade that is going to happen.
We're going to get an audio leak like Christian Bale in Terminator Salvation, where he's just swearing and cussing and throwing things, and it's going to be like, okay, put him back in Hollywood jail.
Yep. So, I don't know why they went for Mel. I think Mel Gibson could be good for this universe. I think I like the way he tells stories. I like how visual he is with his movies. I think he's a really good director. He's a great actor. He's a great storyteller. So I think he could bring something unique to it. But I look at Warner Brothers and I go, do you really want to mess with that? I don't know. And the fact that they chose Mel Gibson is just, I don't know. I don't know if that speaks to their disorganization or if it speaks to, wow, we've screwed this up. This guy's good. Let's see if we can get him. Like, I don't know what that's speaking to.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said in my video, it's I have no idea how to feel about that news, because on one end of the coin, it is so exciting, and it's such an optimistic view to, like, wow, Mel Gibson's going to direct a DC movie. But at the same time, it is the most bizarre and confusing news I have ever heard in my life. Like, you have a guy who just, like you said, crapped all over BBS and superhero movies in general, and he is the last person in the world that you hire if you want to micromanage and you want to re-edit their movie and you want to breathe down their neck. And DC, the studio right now who is in the forefront for doing that, is going after him. And it's one of the most bizarre things ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have no idea. It's a crazy bit of news. I don't have a whole lot of eggs to put in the basket that he's actually going to direct it, but I'll tell you what, if it comes to fruition and we see Mel Gibson behind the director's chair when Suicide Squad 2 is shooting, I'm going to be shocked and excited.
Well, that is Cody and I and our discussion on 4 things we think Warner Brothers needs to do to fix the direction of the DCEU. So what are your thoughts on that? What kind of things would you add to that list of things they need to do to fix the DCEU? And if you think everything's fine and they don't need to fix it, based on some of the crazy news we've been getting from behind the scenes, why do you think everything is cool? Let us know that, because you know what? I really want to have an awesome conversation with you about that in the comments. So I love talking comic book movies. Any chance and any excuse, I will do it. So go ahead and leave those comments there. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button, become a Durbanian, and go over to Cody's channel and hit the subscribe button on his channel. Cody, tell us a little bit more about your channel and what you do.
So yeah, my channel is very similar to what Durbin does, just some movie reviews, TV, music, and video game reviews, editorials, news videos, trailer reactions, all that good stuff. So go to youtube.com/Cody Leach channel, or you could just search my name. I should be one of the first 2 people up there. And yes, I am advertising a Marvel character on my head right now. Equal opportunity fanboyism.
That's right, equal opportunity fanboyism. So check out his channel and check out the stuff that he's posted about the DCEU and things like that. He's got great things to say, so make sure you check that out. And Friday, I plan to have my New Zealand video up. My wife and I took an awesome trip to New Zealand, and we did the Lord of the Rings tour stuff like crazy. So it's going to be at Durban Experiences, which is a segment where I go to experience actual things from movies. So we got to go and actually experience Hobbiton, experience Mount Doom, and experience the different filming locations. I'm super excited to put that together, so make sure you check that out this Friday. So I'm Durbin. This is Cody. Thank you for checking out Durbania.